And if this sort of arrangement at the front looks a little bit fragile to you and maybe not braced as well as it might have been, this would come to have its consequences later on. Girling built special 3 leading shoe brakes for the car. Here you can see the trailing arms of the front suspension, and over at the right is the Lockheed Air strut. The suspension all around at all 4 corners was a special Lockheed strut with a combination of silicone oil and an air cavity that could be pressurized according to the spring rates that were desired, so that was quite an advanced feature. And Walter Belgrove of Standard took on the job of styling a suitable body for the BRM, and this was his model proposal for the car. It didn't vary a great deal from that configuration. Now, one of the problems that the BRM Trust faced was one of time. In the spring of 1947, they had pretty much completed the engineering drawings for the car. And in around the components, however, did not reach them until the time frame of sort of April of 1948 to May of 1949. This was one of the consequences of asking for help in kind. These companies were very happy to do this, but they didn't necessarily have to give it high priority. And the time lost in this period was crucial to the BRM project. Certainly did not help the ability of BRM to field the car early with this highly advanced technology. And just a peek at the cockpit shows the very, very simple layout on a horizontal strip tachometer for the very first racing car engine that was designed and engineered to rev to more than 10,000 RPM. In fact, some of the figures from Rolls-Royce suggest that 14,000 wasn't out of the question, and certainly they were looking to run to 12,000 quite regularly to get the kind of power output that they were aiming for. So not until December of 1949 was it possible for BRM to show its first car. And Raymond Mays demonstrated it at the aerodrome near Bourne that they had been allowed to use by the British government, which was the sole contribution of the British government to the project, I might add. Mays had a raging fever on the day, but he manfully demonstrated the car, posed with the car, and drove it for some laps around Folkestone. And you have to say this is one hell of a great-looking racing car. There's no question of the look of it, the engineering that went into it, the concept of it. It was absolutely stunning. Naturally, having shown the car now to the press at the end of '49, there was considerable pressure for BRM to race it. And the first opportunity really was the first race of the new Formula One World Championship, which was held at Silverstone in 1950. But they had serious problems with the engine. They were unable to get it to endure. They had problems with cracking of cylinders, buckling of connecting rods, failing of pistons, and so on. Very, very difficult problems. But they said, look, we will demonstrate a car at Silverstone at the Grand Prix. We can't race one, but we'll demonstrate one. And Mays indeed appeared there with the BRM mechanics, having worked one of their usual all-nighters to get the car ready. And he did show it to the royal visitors. This was the Royal Silverstone in 1950, as I say, the first race of the new Formula One World Championship. And he demonstrated it for a few laps, and this was Britain's public's first opportunity to see the car that they'd heard so very much about. Now, not to get too terribly technical, but I just have to mention that the problems that they had had so much difficulty with were significantly attributable to the fact that they had decided to have detachable cylinder heads. Now, that may not sound like such a breakthrough of an idea, but no highly supercharged engine had been built really hitherto with detachable cylinder heads. They all had heads and cylinders that were made together or screwed together or somehow attached firmly one to the other. And the fact that the BRM had detachable heads led to big problems, notably the heads lifting up under high pressure and letting water into the chamber, which then, of course, it virtually exploded. And that's what was causing the problems that the engine had, not some of the other spurious difficulties that they assumed. However, the next opportunity to show off the BRM was in the Daily Express race at Silverstone, not a championship race in August of 1950, but the major teams were coming. And for that race, they managed to get one car ready. They engaged Raymond Sommer, a Frenchman, to drive it. And as you can imagine, there was a little controversy about that, British racing car, blah, blah, blah. But Sommer was a good choice, very experienced. Ferrari had used him to drive the first Ferraris. Sommer was extremely knowledgeable, very enthusiastic, very excited about the BRM. And here their mechanics were pushing away Sommer in the car that was flown into Silverstone on the morning of the race from Folkingham in Lincolnshire, just to take a few qualifying laps, which he did to show that the car basically would run. Not having properly practiced, Sommer lined up the back of the grid at the Daily Express race. This was a very big event. The Daily Express had put tremendous pressure on the BRM Trust to bring a car because they had prepared a 38-page brochure about the car. This was also to be the launch of the BRM Supporters Club. This was a big event for the BRM. The Daily Express put a lot of pressure on that. And as you can see, I've got my BRM Supporters badge, which I got from my school days. I thought I had to support this amazing car. They fired up the engine, ran a maze on the right, and prepared Sommer to start the race. And at the fall of the flag, the BRM lurched a few inches forward, and the engine, screaming, went no further. Here Sommer is groping for gears. He thinks maybe there's a gear that will propel this car, but no, there isn't. And they had to push the BRM to the side of the track to let the cars go by on the first lap of the race at the Daily Express event. And this, many people feel, was was obviously a gruesome and appalling result. And there are those who feel that this colored forever the perception of the BRM car. I mean, they were launching the Supporters Club, and then when they pushed it over to the side, people kind of tossed pennies into the cockpit. And so it was not a good day. It was not a good day. It was a deeply troubling event for the project. However, they went home, they regrouped, they entered the car, one of the cars, for a race at Goodwood. Goodwood is, short sprint events, 30 miles here, 15 miles there. But they brought the car to Goodwood in September and engaged Reg Parnell to drive it. Reg was one of the hard men of British motor racing, very experienced, very knowledgeable. And Reg Parnell,